Hey guys, it's me, Pokemon. I'm back, and today I want to talk to you guys about another thing I've wanted to discuss for a while on Marvel Strike Force. I have some opinions on, and that is legendary characters. So currently, we just had Ebony Maw come around the game. Essentially, roughly every 2 to 3 weeks, a legendary character rolls around. As you can see right now, Ebony Maw's here, and legendary characters are characters that require other characters to unlock them. For example, Ebony Maw requires Black Bolt and Inhumans at 5 stars to unlock him. Phoenix requires Villain Mystic Controllers at 6 stars to unlock her. Dr. Octopus, he requires the X-Force at 5 stars to unlock him, etc, etc. The only exception to this rule is Iron Man, where Iron Man, he's a legendary character. He requires shield characters to unlock him. I believe it's just shield. Yeah, but he's always here. He is permanently off rotation because he's been power crept to a certain extent, so he no longer fills that rotation slot. He's still a legendary character, but he doesn't rotate out every 2 to 3 weeks. He permanently stays in the event tab. And keep that in mind because that's really important to what I want to talk about today. So let's go over the roster. They recently added this new legendary tab because they're going to start doing no legendary allowed missions. I think in Dark Dimension 4 they might already have that. Something they're looking to do. But anyways, let's scroll over to legendary. Take a look at all the legendary characters we got. We got 10 legendary characters, 11 if you count Jubilee, who is coming next month ish. So roughly right now we're looking at 20 plus weeks in between every single character. So say you miss Star-Lord, you have almost a half a year between when he's there and when he'll come back the next time, which is crazy. Now of course that estimate changes. New legendary characters come out. Iron Man's not in the rotation. Sometimes it's longer periods, sometimes it's shorter periods, but roughly 20 weeks in between these characters, which is insane. You're talking hundreds of days in between when you get to see these characters. If you miss Ebony Maw right now, you won't see him for quite a long time, like 3 to 4, like a third of a year at least, which is crazy. This system wasn't so bad when the game started. You had Iron Man, Star-Lord, Nick Fury, Magneto. You had 4 characters. They rotated out. I don't think they used to have a pattern, actually. They used to just be like, okay, legendary character coming out. As they've added more and more, I think they've tried to stick to this every 2 weeks or something like that, because they realized there's just so many of them coming. Like, they needed to start going on a set rotation. So they've adjusted it, but I think it's in need for another adjustment because the roster has ballooned in terms of legendary characters. There's 2 different ways I think they could go about it. I've heard people talk about this. So right now, looking at this legendary roster, there are certainly characters that do not live up to other characters on this legendary group. On one end we have characters like Ebony Maw, Phoenix, Black Bolt. I'd argue Dr. Octopus is pretty good. Invisible Woman's, I'd say, borderline. But you have these really strong legendary characters. I mean, game changing, really. I mean, Phoenix changes your life when you unlock her. Black Bolt, really awesome. Ebony Maw, really awesome. Super great characters. On the other hand, you have characters like Iron Man. You have characters like Star-Lord. You have characters like Nick Fury, who I think have seen better days in the game. Nick Fury was originally really good when he came out of the game. I think Nick Fury is certainly a shadow of his former self currently. Really, only you put him on war defense and you forget about him. Star-Lord, his team's garbage. Iron Man, he's a pretty bad character. He's already been booted off the legendary rotation. Shuri and Magneto, I think, if we're being real, they're nowhere near Phoenix level. Like, let's be honest for a second. They're nowhere near Ebony Maw or Phoenix level. I think you can make a good argument that Magneto and Shuri are both useful, but Shuri, I think, originally was used as a support character, really, in raids. You don't really need that anymore. Ebony Maw, I'd say, is a much better support character. You have characters like Emma Frost, Black Bolt. I don't know if many people are still using Shuri in raids, and so that leaves her to be on her home team, Wakandans. Wakandans are garbage, and they even moved Killmonger off of Wakandans. They care so little about Wakandans. I think Shuri, not quite what she used to be in the game. Magneto, he's certainly good. I think he fills a nice niche. I think the Brotherhood team works well. I think they're an interesting counter to the Shield team. But I think that's about it, really. Magneto's really good. They take down the shield team. You know, that's what I do. I keep them in my war offense team list. I see a shield team, I send in the Brotherhood, and I take them down. That's about it. That's all I do with my Brotherhood. You know, Magneto isn't really hopping around, participating in a lot of battles anymore. You know, he's not a bad character, but they're just better options nowadays. You know, I don't generally go to Magneto as my default anymore. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is there's two different categories of legendary characters right now. We have the legendary characters, and then we have the legendary characters that are not quite what they used to be. So I'd say either we need to have 2 sets of legendary events rotating, like maybe every week there's a legendary character coming and it switches between these 2 different rotations of legendary characters. So on one week they'd be pulling from a rotation of the lesser legendary characters, and that's Star-Lord, Magneto, Shuri, Nick Fury. So one of those guys would be in a week, and then the next week they're pulling from a different rotation that has Black Bolt, Ebony Maw, Invisible Woman, Dr. Octopus, Phoenix. And so what you could do is essentially you cut the time in half in between when the characters come around. I'm not a huge fan of this. I think that complicates the game. It clutters it a little bit. You know, a lot of, oh, this character's coming this week, this character's coming this week. You know, you'd be doubling the amount of sort of announcements coming out of the game every week to players. I think it clutters everything up a little bit more. You know, with these characters, they do generally give a weekly giveaway of shards for them, like before the legendary character comes around. I think by doing that, you would, you'd essentially be giving out character shards every day, which I'm not complaining about, but I don't think they'd be itching to do that, and it's more clutter. I just think that makes it harder than it has to be. You know, it's a solution. It would fix the problem. I wouldn't complain if that's what they did, but that's not what I think is the best solution. I think, honestly, like Iron Man, just right now, boot Star-Lord and Nick Fury out of here without even a second thought. Just boot them out of the legendary rotation and put them in like with Iron Man, where he's just always there. You can unlock him at any time. I think that'd be really great on multiple levels. We'll talk about that a little later. I think Shuri and Magneto, you could also consider to boot out. See, the thing is, you have people commenting, you have people that say, like, dude, why would you boot those characters out? But, like, this would be a beneficial thing for the players to boot these characters out. So I don't know if this is like, by saying that, some people are gonna like fight like, Magneto's great, I love Magneto. But I'm trying to boot Magneto out, so that way more players can have access to him. And when players come into this game, they're given more options as a free-to-play player starting out the game. So you know, he may be good, but do we really have to wait till they're garbage tier to move them out of the legendary rotation like Iron Man? You know, could we still maybe move these characters out of here while they're still of use to a new player? You know, I don't think giving somebody Magneto as a new player is really going to change you know, their state of play. All it's going to do is maybe help them participate a little more in war because they have another team that they can use in war. But Magneto's not going to be going into Doom and start like wrecking people in Doom. You know, Magneto's not good enough for that. He really doesn't help you out that much in the end game, in my opinion. Same thing with Shuri. She's a decent character that I think is overshadowed by a lot of other options once you get to the late game. So again, I think at most, Shuri's just going to help boost a new player through their early game, which is great because we want people to be getting towards the end game, because that's sort of, you know, where the grind starts. That's when suddenly they'll start looking at the new characters and being available to unlocking new characters. You know, if you're a new player, you're starting out and you're having to catch up on this huge backlog of characters. You know, if you're like me, you're somebody who's been playing the game, you have most people unlocked. You know, you're watching these new characters really closely and you're ready to unlock them. You know, you're very active in the game. As a new player, you're probably not that focused on the new characters because you're so busy getting caught up. You know, I think we want to boost people through this early game as much as we can. So I don't think it's a bad thing moving Shuri, Magneto, Star-Lord, and Nick Fury out. You know, because I think it benefits us as sort of these more endgame players to have Black Bolt, Invisible Woman, Dr. Octopus, Phoenix, and Ebony Maw coming around more often, because more opportunities, I think, are better. Honestly, you know, you could probably increase the distance between legendaries if you really wanted to. You could move to like every 3 weeks if there was only Ebony Maw, Phoenix, Black Bolt, Invisible Woman, and Dr. Octopus in rotation, because that'd still be less time than what it used to be right now. I think, honestly, the 6 months currently is absurd. Dr. Octopus, I've had enough to unlock him since I was in my last college semester. I've been waiting for 2 months to unlock Dr. Octopus, and I think I still have like another month or so to wait to unlock him. I think that's really silly, honestly, that they do it like this. I believe Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes they just have this legendary tab, and you can just go into any of the legendary missions when you have the characters, and you can just go unlock them. You don't have to wait 6 months for them to come around, and that's really great as a free-to-play player or as a new player, because you can build a very constructed new player guide. Right now you can say, well, maybe you like Star-Lord, or maybe you could build Shield. If Nick Fury's coming around now, if Nick Fury's not coming around, wait 6 months, be ready to unlock Nick Fury. If you had Star-Lord, Nick Fury, Iron Man, Shuri, Magneto waiting there at the beginning of the game for a new player could pick them up at any point. That would be huge to new players. I think that would be a massive incentive to keep them playing the game. They have these 5, well, okay, you have these 4 really awesome characters just right in front of them. You're like, hey, you can get these characters, and if you start out with Star-Lord, Nick Fury, Shuri, Iron Man, Magneto, that is an excellent base of, decent characters that then you can build off of to get these incredible characters like Phoenix, Ebony Maw, Black Bolt. Right now, as a new player, all you have on a given day to work off of is Iron Man and any of the other farmable characters in the game. Now, how can we guarantee something like this happens where we move characters off of this rotation? Well, this is hard because we have new players consistently coming into the game. New players will still spend money on these Nick Fury offers or the Star-Lord offers before his event comes in because they want Star-Lord and Nick Fury. So I think Fox Next is probably still making, a little bit of money by keeping this heavy rotation here. And it also benefits them when Ebony Maw comes around because you have these veteran players spending money because they know if they miss Ebony Maw, I'll see him in 6 months. They know veteran players also are scared of when a character comes around. So, they're making money off of this system right now. So what needs to happen is Star-Lord and Nick Fury need to stop bringing in money when they come around. I imagine Iron Man stopped bringing in money because nobody cared about him. So that's why they moved him off of the legendary rotation. Until Star-Lord and Nick Fury, people stop buying offers for them, they're going to keep them on rotation, which makes this really difficult because as a new player, I couldn't say don't spend money on this character because, they're useful characters to you. They're not really useful in the end game, but if you're a beginning player, they're not bad characters to get. So to say you need to take one for the team and not spend money, I don't think is quite fair. So it puts us in an awkward position of waiting for Star-Lord and Nick Fury to come out of this rotation because we're really counting on the people who are probably the least well versed in this game to sort of understand what is for the greater good of the entire game, which doesn't quite make sense. So that's what puts these legendary characters, I think, in an awkward position. That's the reason why I don't think they've been fixed. Because as far as Fox Next sees, hey, people are spending money on Star-Lord and Nick Fury offers, but it's like the new players who don't really know anything about this game or don't really know that Star-Lord and Nick Fury, the grand scheme of things, you could do a lot better than that. But I really hope one of these patches, maybe after Jubilee, we're gonna reach a point where there's too much bloat. Jubilee's coming out. I'd really like to think Jubilee comes out, they're like, okay, we don't want to go above 9 characters in rotation. Let's move Star-Lord out of the rotation. So every time they introduce another legendary character, they'll move one of the old ones off of rotation. I'd really like it if they did something like that. Naturally, I'll talk about this problem today. It'd be nice if Fox Next got ahead of it and they fixed it, but this will get so bad eventually. It'll be fixed at some point because they add probably 3 or 4 legendary characters a year. By the end of 2021, it's like it'll be like a year before you see a character come around. So Fox Next will hopefully fix it by then. So worst case scenario, we can just time out this problem. But to conclude this video, the points I want you guys to take home, I'd really like it if Star-Lord, Nick Fury, Shuri, Magneto all got booted out of the legendary rotation. We're available like Iron Man consistently because it'd be super beneficial to free-to-play players to start out with a pretty hefty base of characters to progress through the game, get them more to the end game quicker. It would be really awesome for veteran players because it would decrease the amount of time between the useful characters that we actually care about, because nobody cares when the Star-Lord legendary event comes around. And while I think it'd be great if people stop spending money on the Star-Lord Nick Fury offers, you can't really ask that of them. That's not really fair. So at the very least, we'll just wait until it gets so bad that Fox Next is forced to fix it. But at the end of the day, what do I really know? Because I am only a 19-year-old. I hope everyone can have a happy and healthy day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Signing off, everyone.